Kraznys Nakloz and his fellows were all there to greet her. Other well-born Astapores stood in knots behind them, sipping wine from silver flutes, as slaves circulated among them with trays of olives and cherries and figs. The elder Grazdan sat in a sedan chair supported by 4 huge copper-skinned slaves. Half a dozen mounted lancers rode along the edges of the plaza, keeping back the crowds who had come to watch. The sun flashed blinding bright off the polished copper discs sewn to their cloaks, but she could not help but notice how nervous their horses seemed. They fear the dragons, and well they might. Kraznys had a slave help her from her saddle. His own hands were full. One clutched his tokar, while the other held an ornate whip.
"Here they are."
He looked at Missandei.
"Tell her they are hers, if she can pay."
"She can," the girl said. Sir Jorah barked a command, and the trade goods were brought forward. 6 bales of tiger skins, 300 bolts of fine silk, jars of saffron, jars of myrrh, jars of pepper and curry and cardamom, an onyx mask, 12 jade monkeys, casks of ink in red and black and green, a box of rare black amethysts, a box of pearls, a cask of pitted olives stuffed with maggots, a dozen casks of pickled cavefish, a great brass gong, and a hammer to beat it with, 17 ivory eyes, and a huge chest full of books written in tongues that Dany could not read, and more and more and more. Her people stacked it all before the slavers. While the payment was being made, Kraznys Nakloz favoured her with a few final words on the handling of her troops.
"They are green as yet,"
he said through Missandei.
"Tell the whore of Westeros she would be wise to blood them early. There are many small cities between here and there, cities ripe for sacking. Whatever plunder she takes will be hers alone. Unsullied have no lust for gold or gems, and should she take captives, a few guards will suffice to march them back to Astapor. We'll buy the healthy ones for a good price, and who knows, in 10 years some of the boys she sends us may be unsullied in their turn. Thus all shall prosper."
Finally, there were no more trade goods to add to the pile. Her Dothraki mounted their horses once more, and Dany said, "This was all we could carry. The rest awaits you on the ships, a great quantity of amber and wine and black rice. And you have the ships themselves, so all that remains is the dragon," finished the Grazdan with a spiked beard, who spoke the common tongue so thickly. "And here he waits." Sir Jorah and Belwas walked beside her to the litter, where Drogon and his brothers lay basking in the sun. Jhiqui unfastened one end of the chain and handed it down to her. When she gave a yank, the black dragon raised its head, hissing, and unfolded wings of night and scarlet. Kraznys Nakloz smiled broadly as their shadow fell across him. Dany handed the slaver the end of Drogon's chain. In return, he presented her with a whip. The handle was black dragon bone, elaborately carved and inlaid with gold. 9 long thin leather lashes trailed from it, each one tipped by a gilded claw. The gold pommel was a woman's head, with pointed ivory teeth.
"The Harpy's fingers,"
Kraznys named the scourge. Dany turned the whip in her hand. Such a light thing, to bear such weight. "Is it done, then? Do they belong to me?"
"It is done,"
he agreed, giving the chain a sharp pull to bring Drogon down from the litter. Dany mounted her silver. She could feel her heart thumping in her chest. She felt desperately afraid. Was this what my brother would have done? She wondered if Prince Rhaegar had been this anxious when he saw the usurper's host formed up across the Trident with all their banners floating in the wind. She stood in her stirrups and raised the Harpy's fingers above her head for all the Unsullied to see. "It is done," she cried at the top of her lungs. "You are mine." She gave the mare her heels and galloped along the first rank, holding the fingers high. You are the dragons now. You're bought and paid for. It is done. It is done. She glimpsed old Kraznys turn his grey head sharply. He hears me speak Valerian. The other slavers were not listening. They crowded around Kraznys and the dragon, shouting advice. Though the Astapori yanked and tugged, Drogon would not budge off the litter. Smoke rose grey from his open jaws, and his long neck curled and straightened as he snapped at the slaver's face. It is time to cross the Trident, Dany thought, as she wheeled and rode her silver back. Her blood riders moved in close around her. You are in difficulty, she observed.
He will not come,
Kraznys said. There is a reason. A dragon is no slave. And Dany swept the lash down as hard as she could across the slaver's face. Kraznys screamed and staggered back, the blood running red down his cheek into his perfumed beard. The harpy's fingers had torn his features half to pieces with one slash, but she did not pause to contemplate the ruin. "Drogon!" she sang out loudly, sweetly, all her fear forgotten. "Dracarys!" The black dragon spread his wings and roared. A lance of swirling dark flame took Kraznys full in the face. His eyes melted and ran down his cheeks, and the oil in his hair and beard burst so fiercely into fire that for an instant the slaver wore a burning crown twice as tall as his head. The sudden stench of charred meat overwhelmed even his perfume, and his wail seemed to drown all other sound. Then the plaza of punishment blew apart into blood and chaos. The good masters were shrieking, stumbling, shoving one another aside, and tripping over the fringes of their tokars in their haste. Drogon flew almost lazily at Kraznys, black wings beating. As he gave the slaver another taste of fire, Iri and Jikri unchained Viserion and Rhaegal, and suddenly there were 3 dragons in the air. When Dany turned to look, a third of Astapor's proud, demon-horned warriors were fighting to stay atop their terrified mounts, and another third were fleeing in a bright blaze of shiny copper. One man kept his saddle long enough to draw a sword, but Jogo's whip coiled around his neck and cut off his shout. Another lost a hand to Ricardo's arak and rode off reeling and spurting blood. Aego sat calmly notching arrows to his bowstring and sending them at tokars. Silver, gold, or plain, he cared nothing for the fringe. Strong Belwas had his arak out as well, and he spun it as he charged. "Spears!" Dany heard one Astapori shout. It was Grazdan, old Grazdan, in his tokar heavy with pearls. "On solid! Defend us! Stop them! Defend your masters! Spears! Swords!" When Ricardo put an arrow through his mouth, the slaves holding his sedan chair broke and ran, dumping him unceremoniously on the ground. The old man crawled to the first rank of eunuchs, his blood pooling on the bricks. The Unsullied did not so much as look down to watch him die. Rank on rank on rank, they stood and did not move. The gods have heard my prayer. "Unsullied!" Dany galloped before them, her silver-gold braid flying behind her, her bell chiming with every stride. "Slay the good masters! Slay the soldiers! Slay every man who wears a tokar or holds a whip, but harm no child under 12, and strike the chains of every slave you see." She raised the harpy's fingers in the air, and then she flung the scourge aside. "Freedom!" she sang out. "Dracarys! Dracarys!" "Dracarys!" they shouted back, the sweetest word she'd ever heard. "Dracarys! Dracarys!" And all around them, slavers ran and sobbed and begged and died, and the dusty air was filled with spears and fire.